All right. While we are getting people settled again, I'll let each person introduce themselves individually. If you want to give us your name and then what your role is, or what you are doing for the climate movement.
I will start.
Oh,
My name
on,
is
turn on. There we go.
My name is Kansas Lohmeier, and I'm a senior at Elkhorn South High School. I'm 18 years old, and I'm involved in a lot of things. So my friend Sarah and I here, we started Students of Action and Representation, and we attended the Green Amendment testimony or hearing in April, where Sarah testified. Very cool. And then we both went to the Berkshire Hathaway meeting, where I was fortunately able to ask a question about their climate practices. This summer, I went to Girls Nation, which was held in Washington, D.C. And then I am the president of Green Team at my high school, and I am the friend of the environment in the youth category this year for Papio, Missouri Natural Resource District.
Hi everyone, I'm Sarah, and I am also a senior at Elkhorn South High School. I founded the Students of Action and Representation at my school, and we kind of worked with like environmental action and civic engagement. And I also testified before our state legislature for the Nebraska Green Amendment, which is pretty cool. Currently, I intern with Ken Winston, who, chapter chair of the Sierra Club, which is also pretty cool. I've done some work regarding writing like legislative resolutions, petitions, and just things like that. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Victoria. I'm a senior at Bellevue East High School. I'm the communications director for a group called Students for Sustainability. So I've done a lot of similar things, like I attended the Green Amendment rally. I was also able to travel to Washington, D.C. this summer and meet with legislative aides for our Nebraska representatives and discuss current climate legislation. I also work for a group called Youth Environmental Press Team, where I help write journalistic stories about the climate crisis and keep everyone up to date on what is happening. So.
Hey, my name is Juan Milan, he, him. I'm the Civic Education Programs Manager at Civic Nebraska. Some of my programs are things like Nebraska's Kid Governor program for fifth graders, as well as the New American Youth Leadership Academy. Right now, we're working on civic action and climate promotion projects in their different communities. I have a background in organizing, political strategy, and education. And thank y'all for being here and having me.
All right, so these four are very involved in their respective fields. So how do you think anybody in this room could get involved?
I can start with that one. So I would just say getting involved is really truly the first step. So whether that's on a school-based level or just a local level, find people who are like-minded, find clubs that are like-minded, and reach out. Ask to join. I think the thing that really changed everything for me was just attending the Green Amendment hearing and meeting all of the students of sustainability and getting connected with them. And also just applying for those awards. I applied for Youth Friend of the Environment Award, and I was granted it. And through that, I was able to earn my internship with Hillside Solutions, which is Omaha's only major composting company. So I would just say apply. Seriously apply yourself and get involved and communicate with other people who are like-minded.
Okay, so on the topic of getting involved, for me personally, I am a lot more focused on like the legislative and policy aspect of climate involvement. And for me, that means attending legislative hearings if possible. There's always ways you can testify, or if you can't appear in person, you can go onto the Nebraska Legislator website where you can submit public comments, put your input, really get your voice out there, because ultimately that's going to be the only way you can really meet people, is to just fully put yourself out there and know that the people around you are here to support you. They're not going to be judging you for that, because everyone around you wants you to succeed. We're all working for a common goal. A few other pieces of advice I would give would be, like knowing your representative, reaching out to those people, staying up to date with news on state bills and even OPPD or like the Omaha Power Department. And those are just really great ways to network. And even events like this for networking is a really great idea, especially because today we have some of like the most prominent climate activists in Nebraska.
I would say I agree with a lot of that, especially like go to events. Like if there's any climate related event, whether it's at your library or it's like, I know Students for Sustainability, we do a lot of events, like just show up to any of those, start talking to people, start getting out in the community and meeting other climate activists. I would also say, think about what you already are good at and already enjoy doing. So for me, that's like writing. So I started to become a lot more involved with like communication around sustainability. For maybe people like Sarah, that's more of like the policy and researching the government side of things. So think about what you're already interested in and figure out how you can apply that to climate action.
Yeah, all these three are really great answers. For me, it's similar. Find your community, what you care about, and identify what you can do about it. You can go the traditional routes of course, like voter registration drives in your high schools or campuses, writing postcards to your senators, and more on the voter side. But there's also getting involved with community at the lower level, planning small stuff like community gardens or different issue groups either on campus. For example, there's this really great group at UNL called Gen Action that has been working on, I know Carter, I'm plugging in Gen Action here, who's been working on getting a lot of like these menstrual products onto different restrooms across campus. And it's just like, you find your community. Like once you find your community, you will be with people who can support you and carry out like the different things you want to do. Last week, I was at this conference in DC, and I learned about this Carnegie Young Leaders for Civic Preparedness. And they're all across the country. They've been uplifting things like from small stuff like community gardens to youth-led disaster relief for their communities to even like community dialogues on campuses. And I really love that because there's this huge narrative like growing up. Somehow I am still within your generation as Gen Z, I know, but there's always been this like futures of tomorrow, you will do this in the future kind of thing. But I challenge that by saying like, you don't have to wait. Like you can make change now. Like you can get involved from the youngest age. Like I mentioned, my program for fifth graders, they're going to be working on recycling in their communities, awareness for different types of cancers. But yeah, the power is with you. Don't be afraid to try different things.
Thank you all for those answers. So hopefully you guys have some ideas of how to get involved beyond today. With activism comes some setbacks and some challenges. So I'll let each of you kind of describe what you think would be your biggest setback and challenge and how you can get over those.
I would say for me is obviously not everybody is going to have the same opinion as myself. So just being approached by those people who will have differing opinions from you is inevitable, especially in this field. So I would say just hold true to what you believe in, stay consistent, stay involved regardless of what other people think, because it may be a challenge and there definitely will be some setbacks, but staying true to you, obviously, and staying involved with your commitments and being responsible for what you've committed yourself to. So I would say truly believing what you believe in.
Okay, so I'm gonna quickly kind of give like an anecdote about a personal setback I faced. When I testified for the Nebraska Green Amendment, I was approached afterwards by a certain senator, and he came up to me and was like, "Wow, your testimony was so cute." I don't think that's like a really cute topic. Personally, I take the climate pretty seriously. I don't think that's like cute. It was a little bit of a setback for me because especially as a younger Asian woman, you see those societal standards that really try to restrict you or, like put you in a box. And I think another thing is living in Nebraska, we feel so rural and separated. We're like, oh, well, how can I get involved? I literally live in a cornfield, right? It feels difficult to find connection, but the truth is I really tackled those setbacks just by continuously pushing and making sure I find the community that I'm in. It's, I'm never afraid to kind of not only stay true to what I believe in, but to speak out against that and continuously build a better community to surround myself with. And then another setback with people who oppose you in terms of like climate opinions, I would say stay educated on both sides of the coin, right? Like if you're trying to promote climate activism, the only way you can do that is keep yourself educated on the reason why people oppose it. Like why do they oppose it? Is it because of fiscal policy? Is it because of, like whatever other reasons? Find those reasons and then find ways to have rebuttals for them and like understand fully what the other side thinks, because that's really the best way to understand them and be able to persuade them.
I would say the biggest challenges that I've experienced are just feeling like, I don't know, like you've worked so hard and there's nothing actually happening, especially because like as a young person, as a high schooler, like putting your whole life into this movement and then watching like people with way more power than you just not care at all. I think that can be really difficult. But I would say the way I deal with that is by reminding myself of all the amazing things being done and like looking at positive climate news, reminding myself of things like I and other young climate activists have been able to accomplish, and just keeping my head straight and remembering that there still is positivity, there still are so many people who care and are making a difference. I think that is really important.
For me, the most important thing is not being afraid to fail. A lot of the times, if we see something that is daunting or very impossible, we can fall into our mindset of like, well, I'm not gonna do that because like, it's impossible. Just adapting to things. I think I failed more times in different projects than I have succeeded. But from failures, you learn on how to adapt, how to, okay, what went wrong with this? What can I do to be able to change this outcome? And it's just a constant like learning process with everything. Adaptation is like vital to be able to succeed in advocacy and succeed in trying to save like different issues, trying to work on climate, trying to make people aware of like, all the looming dangers.
Yeah, so kind of along those lines, how have you guys as activists balanced your own mental health and your other priorities that you have, because you are all in school or were in school at some point? How do you balance that with staying informed and also with doing the work that you do?
I would like to pick up on what Tori said, actually. She said it's one of her challenges is staying very positive about the entirety of climate change and everything related to that, especially with the current administration. So I would say have a good balance of positive news while also listening to realistic news stories. That definitely helps me, and it's obviously helped Tori. But I'd also like to recommend is doing small things, because you don't have to change the world. It's going to be the small changes that really matter, whether that means implementing composting at your household, figuring out different ways to organize your waste, like the Hefty Orange Bag program, or even just eating one meal with meat a day instead of 3. I would say implementing those little changes makes everything a lot more digestible, and like you're feeling like you're actually making an impact, however small that is.
So I really, really like Kansas's approach with like the little personal things from an individual standpoint. But for me, I really care about, bigger picture things and staying informed and educated. So honestly, the news is really depressing right now, guys. Like I do speech, and my whole speech event is like talking about politics and current events, and there are like, it's very depressing, truly. Honestly, the best thing you can do is just keep a healthy balance of news consumption and stay updated on positive research. Like even though we see these negative things happening, there's always research coming out promoting positive things, talking about, like, for example, recently there was the research report about with the current track that we're on, the ozone layer can be repaired within the 21st century. That's like example of positive news. And so just making sure your approach to your news consumption is very holistic with a balance of positive news along with regular news.
I would say my advice for staying positive, working on mental health, aside from everything that's already been said, is sticking with your community, your climate community. Sometimes you just need to get together and like have a little rant session or just spend some quality time together. I would also say going outside, getting off social media, which can be very anxiety inducing, and maybe just hanging out in your backyard or going for a walk in your local park. That can be really refreshing and a nice way to like connect with nature and remember what it is that you're fighting for. And so I think both of those can be used as ways to kind of keep a healthy head, stay positive, stay connected.
Yeah, these are all really great points, and for me, it's very similar. Finding a way to step away from the screen. A lot of the times, I find myself doom scrolling, and then I am so overwhelmed by everything that's going on in the news. Social media is it's kind of like this this term pharmacon, which is like medicine, but also the poison. That's kind of like how I approach it. It's like, well, how I see it. It's we're so connected and we're so informed, but on the other side, it overwhelms us and degrades our mental health, and we just feel so hopeless. And the best way for me is to ground myself, go out in community, I attend like all of these different like events in Lincoln that's usually like older people doing karaoke, dialogues with them, and it's so great to just be able to see all different aspects of community in one place, be able to just connect about things that are concerns are important to us, but also aspiration and ideas. And then of course, like Tori mentioned, like touch grass, go out, enjoy nature, ground yourself. We need to find this good disconnect from like the digital to be able to actually feel like we were part of our environment.
Yeah, so thank you all for those responses. Our last question is going to be, how has your activism benefited you? So when it comes to internships, time management, anything kind of along those lines, how have you feel like your activism has really elevated you as an individual?
I would say, I mean, we've kind of talked about what we've each received or what internships we each hold. I obviously have an internship with Hillside Solutions, and I'm the friend of the environment in the youth category. But how that's really helped me is solidifying what I know about myself, is that my passion, it is true, and I am capable of making a change in the world. I would say that it's really paved my path for the future, like my intended major. I know plenty of you are already college students, but for those who aren't, I would say getting involved in anything, not even just climate activism, but any sort of activism, can really solidify what kind of future you see for yourself. So I would say getting involved is the biggest thing that you need to do before like declaring your intended major or future plans.
I kind of want to focus more on getting like internships, recognition, scholarships. For me, I do research with some professors at UNO. In the past, I've done research with the School of IS&T, like building chatbots and things like that. And then I also am currently doing research with an economics and international relations professor. And I think one really cool thing to acknowledge is that even though things like technology or like international relations and economics doesn't seem that closely connected with the environment, the truth is climate policy is very, very holistic, and it oftentimes intertwines itself with other aspects of policy that a lot of times we may not expect. Like even in my international relations economy paper that I was editing, I often found myself seeing a lot of the ties to climate policy as well. So it's like no matter what you get involved in or what field you go into, just remember that the environment is very holistic, and it often can be found interwoven into any type of field that you go into. And then for actually achieving those research opportunities, one thing that's worked for me is cold emailing, just reaching out to professors. Like, you could, for every single professor you look at, they always have like a bio page, you know, kind of explaining the research that they've done. Always like, I research the researcher. So I go to their bio, like see what type of research papers they've done in the past, what they've conducted, email them and be like, hey, I really admire your work. I think what you've done with this X, Y, and Z is really cool. And I have these similar passions and credentials from, you know, ABC. I think it'd be really cool to work with you or connect in any way possible. Oftentimes that's how you kind of like get your foot in the door with working with these like larger institutions. And that often is what opens the door to even more connections. Like the professor I work with at UNO introduced me to more professors across different schools, like Syracuse, Yale, Colgate University. So it's like, that's just how networking works. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say climate activism has really helped me believe in myself and that I can make a change in the world, because like once you do all this stuff, you actually realize that you do have an impact and that there are things you can do about the issues you care about. And I would say advice for anyone like trying to, like wondering how do you get so involved, like how do you get all these opportunities? I don't even know. Like I just showed up to an event one day and then like just kept getting more involved, kept meeting more people, kept applying for more things. And I would say that's the way to go. Just take that first leap, apply for something or go to an event or reach out to a group. Because even if you don't think you're ready or don't think you're qualified or whatever, I can assure you that it's at least worth a try. So I would say just take that first leap and get involved, and we'll open the doors to so many things.
I moved to Lincoln about 2 years ago from Texas, and the thing I've loved the most is that there's so many nonprofits in Lincoln and Omaha, but also in a lot of the different rural areas. So there's like so many different ways to be able to get involved in an issue that is important to you. And with all of these nonprofits existing also come a lot of recognition, internships, fellowships, you know, the traditional, but there's also like awards and other like more recognition, merit-based opportunities. For example, we at Civic Nebraska, we have our Strengthening Democracy Awards where we recognize leaders in different communities from different ages. But then Appleseed has the Good Apple Awards that recognize leaders in different communities. And then there's also some like national organizations like New Voters who help high schoolers carry out voter registration drives and voter literacy trainings, and they have internships and fellowships for people that get involved that way. So there's like so many different ways to be able to find these, and if anybody's interested with any of those opportunities, I can give you my contact info later. I know a good amount of people throughout the advocacy space.
So that will be our final question for you guys. Does anybody in the audience have questions? We have about 5 minutes to answer those. Feel free to ask anything.
I don't have any questions. I just want to thank you guys. And please also remember that when you feel like you didn't make a change, just being here today, you did. You gave this old lady hope just about you guys. I have kids at your age, and I just thank you so much for being here and for what you said. And really it is, you guys, it's showing up. You guys showed up here. Thank you so much.
They can answer questions from anything from school to activism to how you can get involved. They're really here to help, so.
So for those of you in high school, what is your plan after high school?
I'm interested in environmental science and pre-law track, so I would like to be an environmental lawyer eventually, and potentially either work for a nonprofit as their legal expert.
I'm really interested in like the field of international relations, public policy, and even like political science, like analyzing that. Hopefully, I'm gonna go into that and work with some policy analysts in the future.
I plan to study either journalism or English in college and then become a journalist who reports on climate and other issues, or some kind of like author, writer who also does climate work within the community.
Any other questions?
I'm curious, just because like obviously all of you are very involved, you're doing a lot. What would you say is like one, or like what are your like main motivators, and like kind of what keeps you going and like getting up every day and saying, yes, I want to keep doing this work?
This is going to be slightly anecdotal, but when I was in 5th grade, I wrote this final paper that was, it was supposed to be about something that was a problem in the world. And I had no idea what to write about, so I just chose to write about something that seemed pretty easy. So I wrote about climate change. And that was not easy, I learned. And I just look back at my younger self and I think, what would she like to see in the world? What would she want me to be for the world? And I know a lot of you have probably had a passion about the environment from a very young age. So I would look at your younger self and say, I want to make them proud. And yeah, that's mine.
One thing that really inspires me, or at least like gives me reassurance, is that even though climate activism and climate policy seems like this like big elaborate thing where you have to know all these like facts and have all this like networking stuff, ultimately it is not as hard as it seems. Like it takes just a little bit of effort and it can go such a long way. For example, that testimony I was talking about, like that's the reason why I was able to network with Mr. Winston and get that internship. And guys, I wasn't even planning on testifying. I was like, oh, skip a day of school. Oh, skip a day of school, fire. So I pull up to the hearing trial and I'm like, wait, like this is actually really cool. I like write down all my opinions on it and then I'm like, let's go, like we ball, you know? And so I pulled up, I sit on the pedestal in front of all the senators and just like give a spiel, you know? Like I tell them my thoughts, my passions, and how I think it affects our state. And it was literally so simple. I mean, all I had to do was be like, yeah, I kind of have an opinion on this, and just like go out and do it. And it was like a 2-minute speech. So it was like a very minimal effort thing that has gone such a long way. And another example is I wrote this legislative resolution, and it was like, when I was doing it, I was like, oh, this is like pretty cool. Like, I'm just gonna throw this together, put some facts together. It ended up becoming a petition with over 500 signatures. I'm like, dang, you know? Like, this thing that I set up together in a couple days ended up being something that reached hundreds and hundreds of Nebraskans and hopefully made an impact on their political viewpoints. So yeah.
I would say what keeps me motivated is the fact that I just feel like there's no other option. Like, I don't know what else I would do. Like, just sit in my room and be depressed about climate change. Like, I'd rather do something. I think for me, it just feels like the only thing that can be done when you're facing such a large, like, climate crisis is just to act on it and to just go ahead and do whatever you can. Because, yeah, I don't see an alternative, so.
For me, what keeps me going is, and I hate to be cliche, but community from all different interactions. I had mentioned some of my background, but coming from more of a traditional, like kind of tech bro space to where I was not feeling like this connection with community or that I was making a difference or helping everybody, to now where I go to a different event I hold or a different project that we're creating with students and just seeing like how excited they are about even this being a possibility. Just this enthusiasm and happiness and connection with day-to-day people.
Thank you all for your sharing of your experiences. Let's give them a round of applause.